Okay, we are live. Welcome. Bree, welcome to everyone who can hear me and see me. Welcome to our panel discussion today with Geographic Solutions about the 2024 labor market trends. Lots of good stuff for you today. Brianna Dilworth is also here. And Bree, I'll pass it to you to let me know when we can officially start. I want to make sure everyone is here because I can't see all of that's happening. I want to make sure that we're ready to officially begin before I start in earnest.
We're ready.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Great. So welcome again, not to repeat myself, but we're excited to have you here to join us for this discussion. Talk a little bit about how it's going to work. You will see there's a place for you to submit questions. We love your questions. Please share your questions freely, and Bree will be monitoring those and sharing them with us as we go along. So if there are some to answer in the moment, we can get to those. If we don't answer it immediately, we will get to it as we continue through the discussion. Anything we don't cover during the presentation, we will have time at the end to discuss. So yeah, we want to make this as interactive as possible. We want to make sure we're covering all of the things that you care about. So please do share your questions and your comments. So very excited to have our partners from Geographic Solutions with us today. Talk a little bit, we'll allow everybody to introduce themselves and share more of their background. But we have a wonderful partnership with Geographic Solutions and Big Interview, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. I am the chief coach and co-founder at Big Interview. Some of you know me. I'm, as you know, very involved in interview skills and helping to share interview and job search skills with students and with everyone in the world, really. That's the main focus of my day-to-day life. And I'm very excited to work with our friends at Geographic Solutions, who are also very passionate about supporting workforce development, supporting people in terms of finding and succeeding in their careers. And I will pass over first to Phillip and then to Cynthia to share a little bit more about their backgrounds and what they do.
Hi, everyone. I'm Phillip. I've been an economist with Geographic Solutions for about 5 years, and my role here has been to take many of the data types that Geographic Solutions collects from our client sites and what we spider from external sites, that being data types like job openings, job applications, and unemployment applications, and analyze them and forecast them and use them to analyze a variety of macroeconomic data, mostly in labor market and in financial markets as well.
Great. And hello, everyone. My name is Cynthia Portugal, and I'm a product marketing specialist for education here at Geographic Solutions. My goal is to help our college partners and their students succeed. So in a nutshell, my role is to be continually improving upon our products and services to ensure that we're meeting your needs and providing the best experiences possible.
Awesome. Yes. And so we have a genuine economist here who is tracking day to day what's happening out there in the hiring world. So you can hopefully glean some great info to share with your students. And Cynthia has a lot of experience working in workforce development as well. So lots of great expertise here today to talk about labor market trends. Maybe if we could advance the slide, I can talk a little bit more about Geographic Solutions and Big Interview. So as Cynthia mentioned, Geographic Solutions has for many years been providing software to help with workforce development agencies. I believe 40 plus states and US territories use Geographic Solutions for various things. You can see on the slide some of the different areas that they're involved in with providing virtual career centers, for governments, for higher education, for a lot of different partners and clients. And so we meaning Big Interview, started working with Geographic Solutions all the way back. I was just verifying all the way back in 2017. And so they've been a wonderful partner. Just went to their conference earlier this year and learned a lot, heard a lot from both their experts as well as the people who are there representing different workforce development agencies. So lots of great discussions going on about the labor market, what's happening, what to expect. And we really felt that you would enjoy, you people who support students and other job seekers would really enjoy tapping into some of that information as well. So with that, I will turn it over to our guest speakers and let them start sharing some of that great information. I think we're going to ask Phillip to go first. He'll share some of his insights and then hand it over to Cynthia. I think we're ready to dive right in, Phillip, whenever you're ready.
Right, thank you. And I'm going to attempt to share my screen here. Okay, I think it should be up by now. Thank you. So I just want to start by saying that the primary data series that we collect at Geographic Solutions are the job openings that are on our state client systems. We also get job openings from employer postings on our sites, and we spider job openings into our systems from really all over the United States. So it's a nationwide geography. And from these jobs, we're able to pull a lot of features like salaries, educational requirements, and type of occupation that give us a lot of insight into the labor market. And since we're in the spring graduation season, I thought I'd start with just a little breakdown here of the monthly job openings by education level. I've indexed these by setting the value of every series at 100 at December 2019, which is just the last month of the last year right before the pandemic. And that just allows it, so it's right about here. That's what you're seeing, all at 100. What immediately pops out is that job openings with no educational requirement really surged in the first 2 years after the pandemic. And the others did as well, but you saw that especially in this category. And I think this is somewhat unsurprising in that employers were experiencing worker shortages at this time. And as they felt more strain and pressure to hire, they began to relax some educational requirements, perhaps in the hopes that they could just give their new hires further training on the job. However, since 2022, the no minimum education job openings have really fallen the most rapidly by around 40%. And one explanation is that the Federal Reserve's rate hikes have really started to settle into the economy and the labor market around that time. And so employers have hired less from these job seekers. Maybe they have kept some of those job openings, but have shifted their educational requirements a little bit higher. But from what we actually have seen in employment over the last 2 years, it's been quite healthy and strong. So I think that the more likely explanation for this decline has just been that a lot of these openings are actually getting filled. All right, so next slide. We basically have the same categories of education, but instead we're looking at the average annual pay for each. So we see some expected groupings here. No minimum education in high school are basically around the same pay. The associate's degree salary, which is depicted here in the light blue, is about where the average is for all jobs that you see in yellow. Pay for bachelor's degrees and openings requiring bachelor's degrees has been making decent gains there in black. And then we have salaries for master's degrees and PhDs. And these two interested me because you can see in the past that there are occasions when salaries for masters have exceeded those for PhDs. And we actually have seen that it happened rather suddenly at the end of 2022 when job openings requiring master's degrees suddenly were offering salaries that surged way above or surged a lot higher, even above what is offered for PhDs. And I want you to kind of keep that in the front of your mind, or maybe in the back of your mind, because I'm going to get back to why I think that might be the case in a moment. But I want to move our job openings data. I want to move to our job openings data for certain occupations. Unfortunately, we don't have a breakdown of educational requirements that accompany a field of study. So we do have education levels, but we don't have those tied into particular degrees, whether it's or fields of study like in biology or whatever. But we do know that there are some jobs and professions that are very closely associated with certain fields. So if you're a lawyer, a nurse, an architect, or a CPA, we have a pretty good idea of what your educational background is. So I took a look at how job openings for these types of jobs have changed over time. And again, these job openings are indexed to 100 at December 2019. And it looks like there's been a large uptick in demand for pharmacists, followed by educators and lawyers. And it seems that early on in the recovery around here, we saw that many of these occupations, the job openings for these occupations, remained subdued. And it wasn't really until about halfway through 2021 when we saw them really pick up and make large gains before eventually coming down to kind of around where they were pre-pandemic. And then here's a visual of the salaries for these occupations. Again, everything kind of looks like how you would expect. Pharmacists pay a lot, and in educational instruction that tends to be lower, and then you have registered nurses kind of in the middle. But I actually want to return to the previous. I want to return to that strange leap in average income for job openings that required master's degrees we saw a few slides ago. Let me try to go back to that. Yeah. So this happened in late 2022. And I remember that this was right around the time that ChatGPT was released. So I was wondering, if this new enthusiasm in artificial intelligence might be responsible for the increase. And so I was thinking about the various occupations that might be significantly affected by this. And one of the first that came to mind was data scientist. So I decided to plot salaries for job openings in data science, along with openings with master's qualifications. And I saw this right here. So this shows a pretty similar pattern in both job openings for data scientists and master's degree and their associated salaries. They persisted, and those you can see persisted through 2023. Keep in mind that the data science openings can't be specified for educational requirements, but if we could strip out just data science openings for that degree level of master's, then we would probably see it conform even more closely to the explosions that we saw in salaries for master's degree holders in the fall of 2022. And then just a couple of other things before I conclude here. I wanted to compare and contrast a little bit the seasonally adjusted job postings that you see in blue with the unadjusted postings in red. On a monthly basis, you can't see much of a pattern here, at least not on the surface, but in the stats, it really looked like March and April are the best time to look for openings. August also seemed to be above average as well. And then on the other side, December tended to be the worst month to find jobs. And a lot of that is just from companies that are paring back on hiring after the holidays. So last, let's just take a look at the occupations that post their salaries on job openings at the highest rate. So this chart shows the top 5 occupations for this, as well as the total in red. And you can see the red is the lowest because that's just the average, and then these are the top performers out of the set. So you can see that these rates went up steeply in 2022. And a lot of that was because we had a handful of states and local governments that began requiring employers to post jobs with salaries if those jobs were going to be located within their jurisdictions or within their areas. So you can see here, going back to before 2009, that the rate of salary posting hovered around or just above 10% for the most part, and then it basically ended the most recent month that we have shown here at about 22%. So almost doubled there, which is quite impressive. Looking at these percentages by occupation, I think could be useful for job seekers who aren't sure if they should approach the issue of wages with a potential employer, but they may feel more comfortable doing so if they know it is something that is commonly done for that type of job or perhaps within that type of industry. So these are just a few of the insights that we have on where things are moving in the labor market by education and by occupation. And now I will pass things off to our senior product marketing specialist, Cynthia.
Great.
Do
Yeah,
we
that policy is going to be so impactful in this space. What do you think about that, Pam?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I was just wondering, do we want to pause for any questions, Bree, there? Because I know that Phillip just gave us a lot of good stuff. And I don't know if we want to cover a few questions related to that in the moment or if we want to wait till later.
We don't have any questions so far, but if you have any questions along the way, just pop them into the chat there and we'll make sure to ask them either as we go or at the end. I'll also bring them up if you had a specific question about the data earlier.
Great. Yeah, I really thought that was an interesting insight about the AI, the effect of AI hiring, and lots of good information there. And be curious to hear from the rest of you out there, your thoughts on some of these trends and also the seasonality. That's one of the things I'm always curious about that I was asking Phillip about myself, because I am always speaking with job seekers who are saying, I'm not hearing back. Is it a slow time? When is it going to pick up? And of course, things vary by industry, by year a bit, but there are some seasonality trends that can be interesting to look at. So so please, if you have questions, if you have thoughts to share, please go ahead and share. We can circle back and talk more about that later. And then for now, if we don't have any immediate questions, I will let Cynthia continue with her thoughts. She's going to share some additional insights as well.
Let's make sure I'm choosing the correct window here. That's me right there. No, I thought the part that was really interesting, and I'm wondering, Pam, from your perspective, how, the publishing, the transparency of pay up front will impact the entire interview process and hiring process. I think it will help it become more efficient for sure. Yeah. Not a lot of wasted time in the negotiation process.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in pay transparency for a lot of reasons. I just think it opens things up. It prevents people from getting stuck in an underpaid position because there's so much secrecy around pay ranges. So I think transparency is a wonderful thing, and there are laws in many states around that. And I think that has become more common, and that may be part of why we're seeing that trend. And I do agree, it takes a lot of the game playing out of the interview process. Everybody knows going in, this is the range. Now, of course, some employers like to post the giant ranges that make it hard to figure out. But I think even any range is a good start. And I think it does help a lot with going into the interview, not having to feel nervous and wonder if this is going to be a fit for you in terms of pay and when should you bring it up and how should you bring it up. It adds a whole other level sometimes. So yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
We do have one question as well that I will pop on. So we have one that was asking, what roles often sought by recent graduates do you think will experience the steepest dip due to AI?
Phillip, do you have off the cuff? I know you like to really analyze it, but an off the cuff
data man. Yeah.
Well, it seems to me like jobs or positions that require a lot of maybe creative writing might see those roles. I don't necessarily think that those jobs would go down, but you might see them shift a little bit as it becomes easier to use AI to draft different things, marketing messages or press releases and things like that. Instead of just originating that sort of copy, they might be proofing a lot of it and editing and improving it instead of just being the original drafters of a lot of that material.
Yeah, I would bet I would chime in on that too, because I think sometimes you see companies move too quickly towards saying we can do all of this with AI. We don't need writers. And then they realize, oh no, this is really bad when we only use AI and don't have any human involvement here. And then they kind of come back, as Phillip said, they figure out what AI can do well and what requires a human being and where they should be involved in the process. So I don't think writing jobs are going to go away. Maybe there will be more of an editing component for some of them, but I could see where some of those marketing and PR type jobs would be affected at the moment, and of course this is all going to be constantly evolving, but anything that can be automated, I think there will always be a need for people to manage and feed the AI and be part of the process. So yeah, those are my thoughts, and a lot of my thoughts are anecdotal. They are not Economist approved, but that's sort of what I've been experiencing talking to hiring managers as well as job seekers out there.
Yeah, that's great. Anything else on that topic before we move on? All righty, I'm going to take it away. Phillip, thank you for that analysis.
Yes, thank
We
you.
certainly appreciate you sharing, helping us to better understand our space. And I can't believe, as you were saying, summer's right around the corner here. So here we are at the tail end of the spring interview session or season. So any of those of you online who are assisting students who haven't landed that next job or who may be in the process of reevaluating their approach to the job search, tune in. It's LMI tip time for interview prep. So of course, I'm going to leave all the interview specific details to the experts, Pam and Brianna. But we at Geographic Solutions can certainly speak quite confidently about LMI and how it foundationally supports students with their research and preparation when it matters most. So a little side note, I'm a Gen Xer. So the bulk of my career development was pre-LMI era, back when like word of mouth and advice from family members and friends and teachers carried the most weight. And though their advice, at least in my case, had really great intention, it was definitely not based on any comprehensive information about job market demand or future prospects. So that, my friends, is why my undergraduate degree is in Russian and that I don't use it at all in my day-to-day role. Thank goodness for a strong concentration in business. But that's why I'm here today, talking about the power of labor market information. So as far as students go, LMI today serves as a compass, and I think most of the educators on the call today are using it in their day-to-day to help with student navigation. It provides additional direction to frame really big career decisions and complex planning, and this makes it extremely useful in the interview prep process as long as students are using it. And we all know that preparation is one of Pam's big pro tips. So Pam, can you please come back on and tell us why we don't want to skimp on preparation when we're headed into the interview?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. And that's definitely my mantra, is that preparation is the key, right? It's the key to a successful job search, just doing that preparation and including labor market data, labor market information in terms of guiding your job search and making it more efficient. And then certainly as you're preparing to go in, get called in for interviews, even before the interview, it'll guide your preparation of your resume and your LinkedIn profile and all of those things to make sure that your information is appealing to the right employers in the right way. And then being able to analyze those job descriptions and really understand going in what that hiring manager cares most about so that you can present your experience and your background in the best possible light, while at the same time, everyone who works with students and job seekers knows how important it is to prepare and practice a bit, just in terms of being able to feel more confident, to project more confidence, to make a connection with the interviewer, and just overall improve your odds of getting that job offer. So the more prepared you can be with data, with your own communication skills, the better results. And I've been doing this a long time, and I see it time after time. Even though prep and practice can feel tedious to some, it makes a huge, huge difference, well worth whatever time is invested.
Well, and along the time is invested, we certainly can, go into digestible nuggets of LMI all the way to comprehensive profiles. But wouldn't you say that anything is better than nothing most of the time, right?
Absolutely.
Little knowledge goes a long way, especially when you're in presentation mode. Great. So let me tell you all a little bit about Geographic solutions in the LMI space before we jump into looking at a comprehensive job profile. So we've been working in partnership with state labor market information department since 1994, when we created one of the first LMI systems for North Carolina Employment Security Commission. Fast forward 30 years and labor market information is integrated throughout all of our employment solutions. So effectively delivering LMI to job seekers, employers, providers, staff, analysts, and of course, our students. So you'll soon see that our solutions are unique in the way that they seamlessly combine both traditional and real-time labor market information into user-specific system activities. So this allows our users to conveniently analyze the labor market in their area when it makes the most sense to them. So backing up for just a second, in case a few of you don't know the difference between traditional and real-time labor market information, I just wanted to explain that a tiny bit further. So traditional LMI would refer to any of the data that's gathered by federal and state surveys. And the primary sources of traditional labor market information are USDOL's Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Census Bureau, state labor market information departments, IPEDS, college scorecards, some of those to name a few. Where in contrast, Geographic Solution is also daily, continuously gathering and aggregating real-time labor market information from jobs posted across a wide variety of sources on the internet. So our goal here at GSI at the end of the day is to display labor market information in context when it's most relevant to your activity on our systems, helping you to understand the realities of the current and future labor market. So next up is synthesizing. So any of us here charged with supporting a student's path to employment success know how challenging it can be. The journey requires multiple steps, including opportunities for self-assessment, exploring careers over here, developing focused career plans, engaging in learning experiences to gain new valued skills. And then, of course, there's this culminating activity of packaging it all up for the job search and interview. And it can be really tough, daunting, actually, to help students synthesize all of this information, connect all the dots, to effectively communicate their value, to sell themselves, and to stand out from the pack. I personally think Big Interview does an amazing job coaching the complexities of this process. And then solutions like our Virtual Career Center help students to better understand and demonstrate their value by centralizing all of their data and comparing it and matching it with employer and jobs data for guidance. But we'll jump into product here shortly. I just want to be sure that as we're moving along, that I am helping demonstrate how we help students see their value. And then we have finally the positioning process. Big Interview has a handful of modules in their training related to preparing your pitch and analyzing the job description. And all of these activities, help a student to position themselves. So once they understand and can demonstrate their value, they're in a much better place to prepare their pitch, and it becomes easier for them to position themselves to differentiate from the pack. Set them apart from the competition for interview success. So our comprehensive job profile and how I match up tooling really does help provide a few tricks to help your students portray themselves as the best choice for the job. So let's go ahead and dive in. 1 second here. I've got so many screens, and there we are. So can everyone see that? We should be on an FMU, my dashboard. Are we all seeing the same screen?
I'm still seeing the slides on my side.
Same here. Yeah.
So I might have
Might
to
need to unshare and reshare.
and reshare. Okay. It really captured the screen for me.
And maybe while we're prepping that, there was one comment that someone thinks that here. I'll also put it on the screen here. But someone thinks that AI is not going to take any jobs, but people who use AI, the way that they use it will change, and that they think that they should take that seriously and make sure to guide students in that direction, which I feel is also great advice from a hiring manager.
Great advice. Because yeah, absolutely. The people who are trained to understand AI and machine learning and everything that goes with it and use it to make their performance better and to help their companies and their organizations to succeed. I think it's going to be a key employability skill going forward, not just for new grads, but I'm, talking to some of my coaching clients who are senior level people, and they're all saying one of my big personal development goals is to understand AI better and to become more of an expert, because it affects everybody's job from entry level to the CEO. So yeah, it's a great.
Yeah, I'm currently using it all the time in my role for templating and refining a lot of research. You certainly can find information that needs some double checking.
Yes, always do the double check if I can say one thing.
For sure. And you sometimes need to take out the word facilitate from every paragraph. But
yes, there are some words that AI loves.
Yeah. Make sure that the Supreme Court case that it's referencing actually existed. That sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
there's more pranking going on by the AI now for some reason to see what you'll believe and buy.
There we go.
All right, now we're seeing it all. Great.
So you are seeing the perfect.
We have a new dashboard.
We are here. So welcome to the Virtual Career Center. I will say the VCC really lives up to its name, providing students with comprehensive career support and personalized guidance. But that is not our intention today. We're really focused on labor market information. But I do want to give you a quick lay of the land for those who may be unfamiliar with our platform. So each time a student signs into VCC, they're going to see this personalized dashboard. And it acts as a customized activity center. So along the main menu are these guided career planning stages, starting at assessments, ending at the job search. And then through the widget, students can view the components of their pathway plan, including their progress throughout the site. And note here is where our integration with Big Interview would fall, and libraries of favorites, as well as curated job opportunities and work-based learning and so much more. But let's get to the good stuff. So I wanted to call your attention over here to the personal profiles. And this is where a couple things happen. So one is we centralize all of our students' data, and these profiles help keep all of their relevant academic and professional information in one place, making it easily accessible whenever it's needed. These profiles also streamline the process of building a resume or applying for internships or jobs in the system. And then number two with this data is that it helps us to automate our systems for personalization. So we use these sophisticated matching algorithms or smart automation to match student with their relevant internships and job opportunities, among many other things. And this increases students' chances of finding opportunities that align with their career goals and aspirations. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick peek at the background tab of the personal profile. And this tab works in cahoots with our resume builder. And this is where students can begin to create their comprehensive profile to showcase their skills and experiences effectively from their education history. Let's see, employment history. We have inventory of job skills, tools, and technology. I applied the occupational default here, so we'd match up to a few more opportunities. Some of their resume details for quick generation of resume, as well as some employer searchable items. But what I wanted to take a moment to show you, let's go back up to employment history. And if we were going to be adding a new employer to the mix here, we would go through some very standard information to get the opportunity into the system. We'd add our job title. But one of the things that we do here, and this is how we help to relate student experience to opportunity, is we're going to ask that student to correlate their experience with an occupation. And so they have a bunch of ways to get to it through a keyword search or through a drill down. I happen to know that I have used computer programmers here in the last couple of times, so the system remembers it. But as soon as we add an occupation to this information, we're in a position then to be assisted when describing our job duties, for instance. We can use a summary description or a detailed description. Now, this is very different than using AI because this is coming from labor market information. So it is well vetted and a very good starting point for a student to expand upon. So they could go ahead and submit that and or change it and save this new opportunity. So I just wanted to show you some of these connection points that make for meaningful connections. All righty, so as we get started here, we're going to go back to our dashboard and I'm going to introduce Brent. So Brent is seeking a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from Florida Memorial University, and he's decided to participate in an internship this summer as a means to gain some experience, beef up his resume and his network, and he's hoping to land a full-time job after graduation. So some of his curated opportunities, as you can see, because he's been prolific and or his profile is prolific with information, we are able to do a lot with it in the system. It looks like, this one appears to be one of our greatest matches. Of course, he would need to explore the opportunity at the job description level. But in this case, he has already applied and we are just revisiting it in preparation for our interview. So analyzing the job description. Many candidates don't take the time to truly examine the job description. Pam, do you have opinions on that as well?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes. And I know, there's reasons for this, right? Because a lot of job descriptions are not great. They're either very bare bones or there's a lot of just junk in there. And it's very difficult to sort of narrow it down. Okay, what do they really care about versus wanting me to have skills and experience in every possible area known to man. So a lot of times people do, they skim, they don't really think too much about it. But I think doing that homework of really thinking about it, really analyzing not only what are they looking for this position, but what do they care most about in terms of what they talk about first, what they talk about most often. There are often themes within there in terms of the skills, competencies, and areas of expertise that they're looking for. So knowing that, you can go in really well prepared to both highlight your strengths and also to address any potential weaknesses. You'll know going in, maybe I don't have quite as much of this as they want. I definitely need to be prepared if they ask me about it to talk about it in a way that shows this is not an issue I can learn, or I have related experience, or whatever else you can do to make it clear that this is not going to hold you back. So yeah, I could talk about that a lot, and I will I'll stop there, but very important.
Well, and so this is where I just wanted to, and a lot of those of you on calls today, there's a high likelihood that we might have a workforce information system, a workforce development system in your state. And so these tools would be available to many of your students as well. But this is our jobs detail profile. And really, the original job description sits as a component of our greater profile. So I do know that Pam gives an excellent module on what you can do with the job description. So anyone using this profile could certainly go to print it and save it as a PDF and then mark it up and take notes on it to really do a thorough analysis. But we're going to walk you through some of the layered information we've added to support the job seeker with labor market information in kind of analyzing the opportunity. So first up is wage. And as you can see, this is directly from the job description, between $15 and $22 per hour. And as what we've done is we've stacked it up against the OEWS wage comparison. So that's the occupational employment and wage statistic. And as what that does, it's not taking into account job type, internship, part-time, experience, education, anything. But it's a great tool to gauge where Brent could be in a couple of years. And average salaries for specific roles in particular geographic areas. It's really valuable information for our employer and candidate partners. Here is what we've done is we make a little bit of the, more consistent data from resume or from job description to job description. We put it in an infographic form. So for our visual learners, they can now see that this is a high school degree requirement. It will also be featured in the job description in text. I'm going to skip the match score for now, but we're going to come back to that because this is what really helps our students to analyze their fit against an opportunity. So again, the standard job description, I loved this, a close-knit group of developers that respect one another. So you can tell there's a human side to this opportunity. It says a lot about the company to make sure they're putting that information in, but standard responsibilities, required qualifications, and so on. But then we're past the job description now. We're still in our profile, and we are going to help you conduct that starting employer research. So where, again, Pam gives a great how do we assess our employer website. We are also, in addition to exploring the website, we're going to offer students the opportunity to view all available positions at Andromeda. And this is a highly effective strategy, a top tip. So by doing so, students are going to gain a comprehensive insight into the various roles and positions available at this company. They might even discover another job that aligns with their skills a little better. Furthermore, students will gain valuable insight into company culture, values, skills, and experiences that appear to be priorities. They might even want to consider doing this for just one or two of the company's top competitors, especially if they're more in a marketing type of or sales role. Then we're going to move on here down to location, work, and site information. So Brent can instantly find out what his commute time is going to look like and whether potential relocation needs are of practical consideration. We have an industry profile. I'm not going to link out to that now just for time purposes. But this will help students to identify and highlight maybe even transferable skills and experiences that are in demand from multiple industries. And there's a cost of living adjuster. So all of these things really specific to helping a student. So it already knows that we live in Tampa and that our opportunities in Jacksonville. I don't know, let's go with the 30,000 and calculate. And is what this is going to do is help Brent to better understand, I'm making 30 in Tampa. I only need to make 28 in Jacksonville. It's going to give me a quick peek at all of our expense categories, as well as some comparisons to other large cities in the Florida area. Could be very useful in the interview process.
Yeah, this is really cool, Cynthia. This is a lot of really valuable information that you don't have to go piece together from multiple sources.
Yeah, I definitely will, bring that research window, make it a little tighter at least. I'm sure there's still going to be things that people find that they're like, I need to jump over here to find out more, but it definitely centralizes the process some. Compensation and hours. This will help Brent to assess the overall value of the job by really pulling out those benefits that are provided. It might make the job offer it'll certainly make it more transparent. It might make it more attractive. And then I'm going to skip over work experience, education and training, other skills. This, to me, it sits near the bottom, is the meat and potatoes. To grasp the responsibilities, the required skills, potential career progression, to really aid in decision making is our occupational profiles. And they are comprehensive. When I say you can go deep. This one is set at a county level. So the more minute level you're at, the less data we're going to have. So if we were set at the state level, you certainly would get more information, but as you can see already, at least 47 examples of developing web-based application as an advertised job skill for this occupation, advertised tools and technology, top employers, supply and demand. So you can learn a vast amount about the job, the supply and demand, the education and work experience required, skills that are being sought, job requirements, you name it, it's probably in there. But now I'm going to move back up to how I match. And this is where I feel we really help students analyze their fit and how they can stand out in focusing in on what the employer really needs and how they measure up. So here is our How I Match score. And this is like an organized template with suggestions to help students on what to highlight and how to stand out to potential employers. So we're going to give them some basic matching, and this is where we're taking their profile and their resume, and we're stacking it up against what we know about the job description. And so this is the summary view, but you certainly can expand it down. And now Brent can really do some of that analyzing, but the system is guiding it. So here's what the position is. It's software developers, but you're saying you want to be a computer programmer. We recommend modify your desired occupation if you so feel like it. Education. The employer's looking for a high school diploma. Brent has a bachelor's degree. There's no recommendations required here. Work experience, we have 41 months. The employer did not specify. Location, we've already talked about. It's in Jacksonville. Brent's in Clearwater. He has something to think about there. Salary, same type of thing. When we start getting down to skills match, this is where it can become really interesting. So, where it can become really interesting. So depending on, some of our employers use the default skills for an occupation, which our users do sometimes too. And every once in a while, you find an employer and or a candidate who has chosen to do a custom list of skills. And so if your employer's done a custom list, it's a really great exercise for the individual to come in and customize their list and then to look at their match. But here it looks like both Brent and his employer chose the default, so they have 100% match, in which case I would suggest they go back to the job description and look for any skills that may have been mentioned. But we're going to give you a couple. And then the same thing here, tools and technology, we actually did not match on all of them. So maybe the employer had one additional set that they included, and it looks like they're related to Adobe. So here's a great example. Does Brent, he apparently thinks he does not have any knowledge in Adobe, and he can either do a quick, certification or some online learning, or just leave it. But here's an example of how now we're really going to start attacking some skills gaps and at least positioning ourselves with a story on what we're doing to overcome that if it's a priority and of importance to our employer.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah, really fun, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's everything on my end. I just wanted to share at this point. So I'm going to stop sharing screen and we can get to questions and discussion.
Yeah, that was great, Cynthia. That's a lot of really cool stuff you can do there. And I know that we may have some questions coming in related to that. And also, before we wrap up, we'll certainly get information if you do have questions and you want to speak to somebody at Geographic Solutions directly, how to get in touch, because lots of good info. And as Cynthia said, and I don't want this to get lost, because I think many of you may be in states where you and or your students might have access to some of these features through your state's resources. So you might be able to go in and test some of this out, and maybe we can share some information later about some of the states where you might be able to access some of this information through your online career resources.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great.
We don't have any questions yet, but everyone just go ahead and use that chat if you do have any questions about any part of the presentations that happened today, or just any open questions if you have specific ones about interviewing that Pam can help with, or anything specific to data that the Geographic Solutions team can help with as well. There was one thing that I thought really stood out for me, though, from this presentation, which was looking, especially what we were talking about with AI and kind of the trends, and making sure that students especially are prepared for this kind of transition, is looking at what skills are needed for that specific job. And you can like see the number of employers who are requesting those kind of skills. That's really interesting and so helpful. And I think that, I mean, Pam and I both know that there are so many, especially students or people that don't have a lot of experience, that will undersell themselves, people changing careers as well. That's a common issue. And by simply highlighting the skills that are required, they are going to position themselves so much better than they would have by just kind of going off of what they think is required for a job.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, one of the things with people who are new to the career path is, they often come with a lot of great enthusiasm and new ideas. And I often get questions when I speak to groups of students about, well, what do I do if I don't have a lot of experience and I'm going up against people who do? And of course that can be challenging. And so being able to highlight some of those soft skills and being able to see it and analyze the job description and understand some of the things that are really important that you could bring, even if you don't have a lot of experience. And so your energy, you're passionate about the career path, your, some of the academic projects or extracurricular activities that you've had an opportunity to work on, and being able to really sell those. That's hard, especially when you're new to interviewing, to sell yourself and to know what to talk about in order to sell yourself. So I think those are all really helpful resources.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting. I think when we're coming in as, young individuals into workforce, it's about us, right? So we're so concentrated on our skills and sometimes and it's not that the employers aren't interested in those skills. It's that they don't need them, or it's not what their main focus is. And so I think sometimes stepping out and kind of having a better understanding that you will have skills that will match what they're looking for, but it might not be the top story you wanted to tell, right? That's specific. Yeah. And so I loved that whole element of like your star stories and really aligning what the employer is looking to what you can do. And more often than not, you can tell some type of story that would either allow them to think I can do it now, or I will be able to do it shortly.
And don't underestimate passion and enthusiasm, right? Because not everybody has that. And so you might be coming in with less experience. And of course, sometimes there's base minimums that you need to meet. But I think whenever I know this as a hiring manager and working with my coaching clients as well, if it comes down to two people who are qualified, who could do the job, and one of them is really excited and really, just dying to get in there and start helping and being part of the team, it's always going to be a better hire to choose that person who's already engaged and enthusiastic. So,
do you think that I'm just kind of that this just kind of hit me? I know that there are some employers, and I think this particularly happens at larger companies, where they have their own system, their own web portal, to manage applications, and and this well predates AI or our recent discussion of AI and ChatGPT. But you spend a lot of a time applying for a position, only to just come to the sudden frustrating realization that not a single eyeball actually saw your application before you got the rejection notice. Is there any way for new students or new graduates to be able to kind of spot those positions, and once they identify them, if they don't meet all the qualifications for them, to just not even bother? Because I've run into this before when I've looked for jobs in the past, where I've seen jobs that I wasn't quite qualified for, but I thought, maybe I have some other qualifications elsewhere that would balance it out. But I was reluctant to do it because I thought my application would just get spit out before anyone saw it. Is there any way to are there any signs to pick up on to try to avoid that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think it's always sort of about that balance between wanting to apply somewhat broadly and, not limiting yourself and not saying I have to have 100% perfect or don't even apply, because I don't think that's the case. I think you don't need to have 100% of the qualifications for most positions to get along in the process. And, there's a lot of different ways that companies approach this. Some definitely do use ATS systems to filter and maybe filter out people who don't have certain keywords or certain types of experience highlighted in their resume. But others don't. Others are still, they're not filtering that way. They use ATS systems, but for different things, and they still do look and scan the resume. So I would say if you feel like you could be a great fit, I'm always a believer in a targeted search and not applying to absolutely everything you could do, but also targeting it somewhat, but not limiting yourself either. If it's something that you're excited about and you have a lot of the qualifications and you could learn what you're missing, I would say still apply, but also if you go in prepared because you've analyzed the job description, you can go in and make sure, hey, I'm going to highlight certain things in my resume and my cover letter so that they don't, because I think the biggest risk is that people look at your resume and automatically, because they really only look for 6 seconds before moving on sometimes, if they look at it and think, nope, this is not someone who's a fit for this, I don't see anything that stands out to me in terms of this person might be spamming me because they're applying to everything out there. And it does happen. As someone who's gone through resumes in the hiring process, you do have people who are just applying to everything. And so you start to get cynical. As you start to look at the applications and you don't see any match whatsoever, you're like, do they even read the job description? So one way to help with that is in the cover letter, in the resume, to customize a little bit, just so that at first glance they can see, maybe they don't have everything, but they see enough of a fit that, yes, this person's in the right place and this is someone to consider further.
That's great.
We did have one other question as well from the College of DuPage that was about how students can access LMI and the features that they saw today. So if anyone from Geographic Solutions has that link, just let me know and we can shoot that over in the chat.
Yeah, we do have the Illinois State LMI system. So that's illinois.virtuallmi.com. And then on that particular one, I don't know that there will be an individual registration that would match up your resume, but you certainly could look at the job descriptions. And then we have Career Connect, Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. But she certainly can follow up with us as well. And I couldn't share Brianna in this, but I can send out our entire map and clients individuals can look at, click on their map for.
That would be great to do in our follow-up. And if any other questions have come in that we aren't able to answer, we can address those in a follow-up as well. But to share the many, many states where resources are available and how to get to them.
And I'll send those links and a follow-up. Everyone watching today will get a little follow-up with a recording for this if you want to come back to it, as well as the links that we talked about today.
Thank you, Brianna.
Absolutely. I think that's about it for now. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone that came today. And I'm sure our panelists as well have some things to say. But
we just appreciate the hellos and the chance to talk with everyone. Again, I am a big fan of labor market information. And I just was well aware of it way too late. And I know schools are doing a much better job from K through 12 to, higher ed, a much better job of making it, a part of their everyday when they're talking about their programs and, helping students navigate their space. So it's encouraging to see that. But there's a lot of places where it becomes really impactful. So job search and interview is definitely one of those areas.
Yeah, and I just want to say this is our first of these webinars, bringing our Geographic Solution partners in and having this discussion around labor market trends. But we want to keep doing it, and we want to know from you what are some of the labor market trends that you're interested in, or things that you're seeing that you'd love to have an expert comment upon or expand upon. So please do share if you want to share it through the comments here, through the chat here. Great. Or if you want to follow up after the webinar, we'd love to hear from you what topics in this area you'd like to chat more about in future webinars or through future resources that we provide. So yes, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, and also to follow up with what Pam said, you'll get a little feedback survey. So if you want to add in some specific topics that you'd like to see covered into that, you absolutely are welcome to do that. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming today. It was great having you all. And big thank you to our panelists as well for helping us with this information. Yes.
Thank you
You
very
all
much.
are a fun bunch. We have a
Yes.
good time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Take
everyone.
care. Thanks.